Well, I've developed a couple drive systems that could be used on spacecraft. I haven't brought them to market yet, partially because unfortunately my mind takes all of the technology I develop and figures out ways to make weapons out of them. So I'm cautious as to what I release when I do. And I've been looking at that idea for a while. Really with the robots, we're kind of copycatting some of the other people out there. The largest space robot company in the world is owned by Bezos. And Jeff Bezos has 0 robots in outer space. All of his space robots are in his warehouses. And what he's doing is developing the AI algorithms and stuff so that when he starts to put them into space, he can use them. So we're looking at a parallel path like that. Let's develop these assembly robots, 3D printing robots, mining robots on the terrestrial plane. In fact, we just shipped our first mining project yesterday. So what I'm doing to get there is there's a couple things I've done. One is I'm reaching out to the mining companies in the US, and we're upgrading these 1970s mining robots that they use to reline the mill. So if you don't know what an iron mill is or a gold mill is, it's just a giant drum, way bigger than a cement truck, but very similar in shape and shape and form. On the inside of that drum are these 6 to 8 inch steel plates that the steel balls get carried up to the ceiling, drop down on the ore, and crush the ore. Well, after 6 months, those plates wear out, and they have to put this human-operated robot in there to take those plates out and put new ones on. A lot of people got out of that mill liner business. We're going into it because there's a huge need to repair and replace these. So we're creating relationships with automation and mining equipment with mines because there's only 2 industries on the planet that have a 50 to 100 year outlook. And that's pretty much timber and mining. They plan 50 to 100 years in advance. So what we're trying to do is to provide value for their everyday operations so we learn how mining processes are done here, what types of equipment, and how we're going to take that type of technology and convert it to a zero gravity environment that I can 3D print into space on an industrial scale. Now, when I started the company, we went out to the Naval Research Laboratory, and they were kind enough to offer us a $6 billion robot to go up and refuel satellites. And the catch was they wanted me to develop the $6 billion bus to drive their robot around. And I asked them, I said, well, we're in a meeting with about 100 scientists and NASA and NRL, Naval Research Laboratory people. And I asked, I said, well, how long do I have to put the proposal together? And I said, well, 9 days. And I looked at them, I kind of go, oh, so Boeing and Airbus got this under control. And they all laughed. They're like, oh my God, somebody understands how we buy. Dave, we've invited guys like you here today because we want you to support Boeing or Airbus, whoever wins, and make sure they're successful. Well, the really cool thing is after the 4-hour meeting with them, I'm standing in the parking lot ready to go to the airport to fly back to Minnesota. The head of DARPA, if you don't know who DARPA is, it's a Defense Agency Research Program Agency. They're the guys who give billions of dollars to companies like me to develop products like this or ideas. And I asked him, I said, you going to the airport? And he said, yes. I said, I got an Uber coming. You want to ride with me? So I got 45 minutes with the head of DARPA. And he goes, Dave, what did you think of the concept? And I go, God, I don't want to be rude, but your robot's really grossly outdated. Your mathematics are poor at best at this point. And your commercialization plan is probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. And he just looks at me, he goes, somebody gets it. Can you come back in 2 years when this contract's over and we can start over? And I'm like, I'm game. I'm still waiting. The 2 years is going to be in about a month or two. I don't know if we'll still be in on this. Yeah. But what they wanted to do is they wanted to refuel satellites in geosynchronous orbit. Well, there's only like 13,000 satellites that need that service. I think it was 1,300. Well, if you drop down half mile into non-geosynchronous orbit, there's like 40,000 satellites that need fuel. And while you're waiting for fueling gigs, we could collect space debris and deorbit old satellites and space junk to kind of clear the way out. So that's one way we'll probably start, is refueling satellites and or deorbiting junk. Maybe we end up getting stuck on the moon. Maybe we end up getting stuck on Mars. Our hope is to get out to the asteroid belt. 16 Psyche is the key asteroid everybody wants. If you don't know what 16 Psyche is, it was the core of a planet. And this asteroid is worth something like $100 billion trillion. They think that it would destroy Earth's economy 10,000 times over. But we probably won't be able to bring the whole satellite back. We'll just bring big chunks of it back as we need. So there's a huge economic opportunity for our planet to be very viable. And through robots, automation, and space travel, we do think the planet could hold 50 to 60 billion people, and sustainably. And we've got to start planning for what the next 10 generations look like on this rock. And quite honestly, if you're like most of us, we probably should have a lifeboat in case we have to leave for a while. Things happen naturally on this planet that are not conducive to life. And it would be horrible if we couldn't wait out a couple 100-year cycle to let the planet settle down and repopulate it. And that's a lot of what drives me on a daily basis is, how do I make enough money? How do I bring in enough customers to hire the right engineers, bring in the right minds, so that 5, 10, 15 years from now, we've set the seeds to make these journeys that I think mankind is ready for.